Yeah, it's on already, right?
Okay, already, yeah? Okay. Welcome. Good afternoon, everybody. And today we are going to be introducing this new system of learning. That here, like a beep or something. Is this still on? Okay. This new system of learning, which is online learning. So meaning that you will be having your lessons, half of them online on YouTube, and it's a new way of us teaching this subject, of course. What we're going to do basically is we're going to index all our lessons, alright? So if you miss a certain lesson during a certain time, then you can watch some of the lessons. Of course, if you want to watch all of them from start to finish, it's fine as well. Each lesson will be about 40 minutes or an hour long. Now this module is going to be on the Old Testament, and we are going to start on the Old Testament, and we're going to cover it over a couple of months and finish what we need to finish in that time. Okay. So just looking at the schedules, let's begin with prayer first. Okay, let's pray first. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for this afternoon, and we pray you guide us as we learn about your word, and that we will grow and in our understanding of your word. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so first and foremost, this is the 14th of March 2016. You need to hand up your tea bags to me later. Show to me at least, or at least what you have. Okay, give me what you have. I want to see at least your progress, what you can give to me, right? But we shall begin our study of Old Testament. Today is lesson 1. Okay, so lesson 1. I would think that there would be an average of about maybe about 20 lessons, okay, for the whole Old Testament, or less. Okay, now lesson 1, we are going to be learning about the Old Testament. Okay, what is the Old Testament, and how did the Old Testament come about? Okay, these are very, very fundamental, basic stuff. Okay, Old Testament, the first word, what is testament? What does testament mean? Don't know. Kiara? No, it's not a testimony. What is testament? Kimberly? Don't know. Show it. It is an agreement. Agreement that a husband makes with a wife on the marriage day is a marriage covenant, where a husband promises to the wife that he will be loyal to her until the day he dies. That's essentially what happens on the marriage day. He makes this huge, big promise that he doesn't know whether he can keep, right? To the wife, or the soon-to-be wife, and the whole family and all the friends there, that I promise to have and to hold to this day, to death do us part, right? In sickness or in health, in poverty or in wealth and things like that, right? He makes this big promise, and then the promise is sealed with a ring as a sign of his covenant, right? And a kiss, which then allows him then to have sexual intercourse with his wife anytime he needs to, or anytime the wife wants to, and so on. And then that will also create children, for the next generation and things like that. It's a very beautiful arrangement, right? Where the husband, before he can do anything with the girl, has to promise he'll protect her, look after her, and be her guardian for the rest of his life while he's still alive. That is the essence, or a simple, real-world example or application of a covenant. So when we look at something like this in an Old Testament idea, and if you say, okay, it's an old agreement, then the next question is, what is the agreement? What is this agreement that the Old Testament is supposed to be about? Anybody? It's ironic, isn't it, that we read the Bible and we say, oh, I'm so familiar with the Bible now, but actually we don't know some of the most basic fundamental words and what they mean, right? What is the Testament? What is the Old Agreement, right?
Oh, is that the Messiah will come?
No, there's not. That is a promise. That is a prophecy that was made over and over again. But there is one single agreement that was made between God and man okay, in a certain place, in a certain location, at a certain time, on a certain date, right? And we Christians call this the New Testament, or the New Agreement, right? Again, if you ask a normal average Christian, what is this new agreement? They'll be, I'm not so sure. What do you mean new agreement? But it's the entire Bible. Old agreement, new agreement. Now, as a contrast, okay, I'm contrasting this. The Jews don't call this old agreement, new agreement. In fact, if you will say old agreement, new agreement, they'll be very offended. Okay? So for the Jews, this 39 books is known as the huh? Say something? No, not the Torah. Torah is 1/3 of it. The full thing. You'll be very offended. Excuse me, it's not the Old Testament. Right? Yes. Okay. TNKH. Now the Tanakh is a collection of 3 sections. Okay? 3 sections. Torah, Nevi'im, Ketuvim. Okay? When you see in Hebrew a im at the back, it's usually plural, right? So this is, Nevi'im is the prophets with a plural. This is the writings. Okay? Now, the Jews classify their Old Testament or the Tanakh in a different way than we do. Some are similar, some are different. Right? Torah is the same thing. Genesis, what? Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Right? This, according to conservative scholars, these are the first 5 books to have been written. Right? And are supposedly were written as early as 1400 to 1200 BC. Okay, depending on which date that you take it. Okay. Now then you've got the prophets. Okay, now the prophets are Joshua, Judges, Samuel, 1st and 2nd, but they count it as one book. Kings, 1st and 2nd also counted as one book, right? Joshua, Judges, Samuel, Kings. Now you're like, what happened to? What happened to? There's one book missing. Yes, Ruth. Ruth ends up here. Ding. Okay. Then 4 prophets here, and then you've got then you're like, hey, wait a minute, after Kings is what? Chronicles. Chronicles also don't make the list. Chronicles are also here. I'll explain why later. 1st and 2nd. Right? And then you've got okay, those 4. Then after that you've got Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Lamentations. Right? And you've got Ezekiel, and you've got the 12. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. These 12 minor prophets, Hosea, all the way to Malachi, excluding Daniel. Okay. Daniel ends up here. Now, every other book that is not mentioned in this list ends up here in the writing. So what are they? Hello.
Psalm.
Yeah. Psalm, Proverbs, Song of Solomon. Okay, what else? Ecclesiastes. Okay, what else? Don't know your Bibles? You don't know what's in your Bibles? No, Lamentations included here. Alright, now let's.
Jeremiah.
Jeremiah's here. Okay, Ezra and Nehemiah are here.
Why is Ezra not included under?
Yep.
Why ah?
Good question. Okay, but it's not for now. I'll explain later. Right, Ezra and Nehemiah is here. What else? You're missing a few books.
How come Jonah is not? Jonah.
Is Jonah here?
Jonah.
You're missing one book. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy.
Where my keys? There's keys are there, right?
Yeah, there. Faster.
Looking ah.
Cepat.
That's stress though. Where's Joe?
Yeah. Go. Okay. So that's about that lah, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9, no, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. We're missing 2. There's 2 more that you're missing that we're missing. Okay, there should be 24 books here. Okay. For the Tanakh, there are only 24 books. Esther and what else? Ruth included already. Joel is inside here. What else are we missing? Okay, we're missing. Sorry, no, we're missing 1. Anyway, so that is the.
Counted wrongly.
Sorry.
We counted wrongly.
Yeah, and then I don't see anyone else.
Okay, let's hold it for now. But anyway, this is how the Jews see their Old Testament in a completely different way, right? Their prophets are all jumbled up, right? You know, it's all over this way, and you kind of wonder why, right? Why is Ezra and Nehemiah over here, right? You know, and why are these books over here? And there's a very clear reason why. And the reason is this concept called the exile.
Those are before exiles and prophets.
Yeah. And one more thing is that exile, just like the Jewish exile that we learn in our paper 2 in New Testament, which is the 66 notice here.
Oh.
66 to 70 AD, remember the destruction of the temple, that's a central historical element that all our study in New Testament hinges upon. Either before the destruction, after destruction, always post-destruction or pre-destruction, right? It all hinges on that, right? In the New Testament, in the Old Testament, in our paper 1, however, everything hinges on this. This is the hinge. And a lot of us some of you don't even know the exile very well. Did you know that there was more than one exile? How many exiles were there?
When I say that's why, then everyone, all the kings got exiles.
Not necessarily, not all of the kings, some of the kings, right? But the exile is a very central element in this. Okay, so let's look at this first. The first 5 books of the law, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, establish what the Jews, even to this very day, regard as the basic teaching of Judaism. Okay, the core essence of the text. Okay, and then of course they have all this thing called the oral tradition, oral law. Okay, so the oral law eventually evolved into what is known as a Talmud. Okay, which every Jewish boy who studies the Old Testament has to study both the 5 books of the law of Moses as well as the Talmud. Okay? Now these guys, the prophets, the Nevi'im, right, they are not on the same level as the law. Okay? If you were to draw it in this way, okay, Torah will be up here, Nevi'im will be here, and Ketuvim will be here. You be what? Most of us Christians don't see it that way. We see every book the same. We regard every book in the Bible on the same level. Am I right? You're like, oh, it's Ruth, man. I mean, how can you put Ruth here? It's horrible, right? You know, that's what we Protestants will see, right? But for Jews, they don't see that way. Okay, they place emphasis on this. Okay. Now, you're like, but what's so great about the Torah, right? You know, like the first 5 books is just stories and stuff like that. Oh, because in the Torah, you've got all the origins of everything. You've got the origins of the world, the universe, humanity, the laws will come later, the origins of the Jewish nation, how Abraham was called in Genesis chapter 12, you know, and how they were in Egypt, and from there, you know, God had to save them from Egypt, and then give them what is known as in the Protestant circles, as the what? Yes, the Old Testament, the Old Agreement. Okay, there was a significant event that happened in Torah, right, when God made an agreement with the people. Where is it found in the Torah?
In Abraham, telling Abraham.
I know which book.
Genesis.
Nope. Yeah, Exodus. Okay, and Exodus can be divided, easily remembered, into 2 parts. It's 40 chapters. Okay, first 20 chapters is Moses bringing them out of Egypt. Right, the next 21 onwards is how God gives them the 10 commandments. And that is, my dear friends, the Old Testament, the Old Covenant, the Old Agreement that God made with man on Mount Sinai, located in the 2nd book of Exodus.
Wasn't the first one with Abraham?
Oh, God made many covenants with individuals, but this is the only one where He made with the whole nation, one shot. Okay, He made covenants with Adam. He made covenants with Noah. He made covenants with Abraham. He made covenants with David. He made covenants with different kinds of people. Some big, some small. But the major one He did was the Mosaic covenant, where it involved all the people, one shot. You know what I mean? Like I give an example, the Davidic covenant. God makes a covenant with David to say, your descendant one day will rule forever and ever. But it is just God and David, and it's David's descendant. It does not involve everybody else in Israel. You know what I mean? Whereas in the Mosaic covenant, God makes an agreement with the entire nation as a whole. Right? First time it's ever been done in the history of mankind, and never done since. Okay? Except when it comes to this New Testament, where now God makes an agreement with the whole world. Before that, He was making an agreement with 2 million people, right? 600,000 males and 1.4 million females and children, right? 2 million people standing there, and God says, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, and you shall follow these laws. You know, you shall have no other gods before me, right? You know, and so on and so forth. He makes this agreement with the people, you know, back in also sometime around this period, okay, around this period. So now, what's Leviticus? What is the book of Leviticus about?
The law.
Lots and lots of laws, okay? And Leviticus, because it's known as Leviticus, it is about the Levitical law, okay? There's lots and lots of laws about how the priests should conduct themselves. The priests are like the envoys or the emissaries of God on earth to help the people follow the law, okay? So Torah, what does Torah mean, by the way? Anybody? Torah means law. Okay. So the law of God that was given by and through Moses to the people. So Leviticus is also laws, okay? Lots and lots of laws about how to be pure and holy, right? You must do this because the Lord your God is holy. You must be holy just as the Lord your God is holy, right? You know, or you must follow these commands because the Lord your God is holy, right? He shall not tolerate any kind of sin or uncleanness. You shall remove the uncleanness from among you, right? For the Lord your God who dwells among you is holy or clean, right? So Leviticus is all about cleanness, right? And a side note here is that when a small kid, one of the early forms of education last time, Jewish, you know, system, where every single kid is educated. Last time you see in education, right, there is no corporate education, right? You know, everybody learns from their parents, right? So if my father is a farmer, I'm a farmer, right? So that's all the education I learned. But in the Jewish system, it is the first primitive forms of corporate education where everybody comes, regardless whether your father is a farmer, whether your father is a silversmith or whatever it is, you all come to study Torah. Okay, so when you are like 4 years old or 6 years old, you come and study Torah with the rabbi. Okay, so the rabbi will be the teacher, the only teacher in the whole community there, right? Everybody else is farmer lah, doctor lah, what lah, right? So the rabbi is a teacher. So the rabbi will teach all these kids, and guess what? Which book they will study first?
The law.
I mean, yeah, they'll study the 5 books, but which of the 5? Which of the Leviticus? And for us as Christians, right, we read the book of Leviticus, right? That's the most boring book for us. I mean, when I was 10 years old, I read Leviticus and I fell asleep. And some of you, if you read it today, you might also fall asleep. Like, it's so repetitive and so boring, right? But it is about cleanliness. And according to the rabbis, you study, for the clean, you must study the clean. The kids are all clean, as in they have no idea what is wrong and evil and all that kind of stuff. They don't know how to kill, they don't know how to betray, they don't know how to lie and steal and all that kind of stuff. So by right, they should learn all the clean stuff. That's what the rabbis say, right? So they study the Leviticus. Then Numbers, okay, Numbers is a mix of both laws as well as wanderings, right? They wander around and they do lot, they mess up a lot. They go all the way to the promised land, and they're at the age of promised land, and they say, we don't want to go into the promised land. And God gets very angry, right? And they all accuse God. They say, you brought us here to die. You know, you don't love us, you hate us, you want to kill us all. You know that all kids are all going to die. You know, God's so angry, right? God sacrificed so much for these people, and they turn around and spit at his face, right? Unfortunately, they spit at their own face, right? So they reap the fruit of their own rebellion, and God said, enough, this whole generation will not enter into the promised land. I will only let Joshua and Caleb and their families get in. Everybody else, including Moses, couldn't get in, but Moses' family went in, right? But only Joshua and Caleb. Even Aaron died, you know, halfway through, and I think Aaron's family managed to get in as well, because, you know, so on. But the point I'm saying here is that's Numbers, okay? Then when you come to Deuteronomy, now Deuteronomy means, what does Deuteronomy mean? Deutero is second, okay? So uno, deutero, trito, quattro, and so on, right? So deutero is 2. Okay? So Deuteronomy or nomos. Nomos is law. So second law. You're like, huh? Why mean second law? See, you're learning all this kind of stuff, right, about the Bible, which you kind of took for granted for so many years. Now you're looking at the actual why it's called these things. Because it's a second law, because it was given by Moses to a second generation of Israelites. The whole previous generation of Israelites had all died in the wilderness because of their rebellion against God. And now a new generation of Israelites are standing at the edge of the promised land, and Moses, who's going to die by now, he is giving the law to them the second time. And he's telling these young people, okay, young people, listen, you must follow the Lord your God. And says the same thing almost like that was recorded in Exodus chapter 20 and Numbers. Okay, all this law. And he repeats it. Some parts he repeats, certain parts he's new stuff, and that's Deuteronomy. And as a side note here, as a side fact here, when Jesus was confronted by Satan in his temptation, 3 times he quoted from Deuteronomy. So, I mean, Deuteronomy is a big deal. In fact, it is a big deal. Every single child, a Jewish child, is taught the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Adonenu, Adonai Echad, Boru. You know, and it goes on. It's a little song that they sing. All the little kids know they sing. Okay, sing the song. And it basically means, it's found in Deuteronomy chapter 6, where it says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one." Okay? Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one. And the verse right after that, right, the Shema, right, chapter 6, right, is, "And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul." Remember, some of you may know this, when the teachers of the law came up to Jesus and says, you know, what is the greatest commandment, right, in the Bible? And then what did Jesus say? He says, what do you read it to be? Then the guy, the teacher of the law, asked him, he says, you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. Then Jesus says, you have answered correctly. Okay? then it says, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself, right? And then this guy says, but who is my neighbor, right? So and then Jesus goes on to explain. But that is all found in Deuteronomy. You shall love the Lord your God, all your heart, all your soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. And this is the two most important laws in the entire Torah, and it's found in Deuteronomy. Okay, right? So that's the first Torah. Okay, and so the Jews, to see the extent of how serious they treat the Torah, is they even have a special celebration, a public holiday called the Simchat Torah. Okay. All this you don't need to know all it's just like random, like trivial, random facts, right? Simchat Torah, yeah, Simchat Torah, where they will gather in Jerusalem and they will dance. And they will hold the Torah and they will dance and dance and dance and dance and dance. They will kiss the Torah, right? And all these men, it's all grown men, the beards and all that. It's amazing, right? It's really, really a sight to behold, right?
I can't imagine you say what you're doing.
I mean, yeah, okay, I can do it, but I mean, these guys are big, burly, and they're all like, dancing with great joy, just like David danced, because of the word of the Lord, okay? And David, or at least the Psalm 119, is all about the Torah. Your law, O Lord, right? Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. How can a young man keep his way pure? By living according to your law. The entire Psalm 119 is about Torah. Torah, 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 they will sing, right? In the Simchat Torah, right? So these Jews regard the Torah, these 5 books, as the most important thing on earth, even better than life itself. Wow. They would sacrifice their lives for Torah, okay? But then when it comes to this, Nevi'im, not so much. Okay? They don't place that much emphasis on that, on the prophets, as in Torah. Now you may be asking, then why aren't we studying Torah? I mean, that's so important. Why don't we study that in divinity? We are not. We're studying the prophets. Okay? And even then, it's also a specific group of prophets, not all the prophets. Okay? So let's look at this. Now, Joshua, Judges, Samuel, and Kings are mostly stories. Okay? Joshua talks about how the people go into the land, right? Judges is how the people mess up after that, okay? And then Samuel is how God appoints the first king, okay, which is Saul, and there's a big mess about that. And then eventually 2 Samuel is about David and his rule, a successful king, and then followed by the monarchy, whereby the Davidic system is established and the king's rule. I mean, first kings is Solomon, and then after that, how the people mess up and so on. So that these are all just kind of overview historical things. But, and importantly, is the end of First Kings is the exile. Okay? The second exile. Now there happen to be 2 exiles. Okay, I'm answering my question here. There are 2 exiles in the Old Testament. Okay? One exile happened in when? This is Bible knowledge. Okay? Random Bible knowledge stuff. When did the first exile take place? Anybody know?
It was the is it? Wait.
Is it the Egypt one?
Yeah.
The one that goes to ocean.
Huh? No, that's not.
Exile is from Israel, right?
Yeah.
It was definitely after David, right?
Yeah. David was about 1000 BC lah. Okay?
Is it Jeremiah's exile?
No, Jeremiah is the second one. The first one. When was the first one?
Was Daniel before or after Jeremiah?
Very important. This one will give you a clue.
After.
Yes.
Who's the king who ruled in the exile?
The Manasseh guy.
No, Manasseh was not even exiled.
It wasn't
Manasseh
exiled?
died, yeah. Okay? First king, the first group of people is the northern kingdom. Now, also basic history lesson. Okay? So when the people came in from Egypt, okay, in maybe 1004 or 1002, depending on which camp you go to, they went from the south, okay, from Kadesh Barnea, up, went up here, okay, and then there was a coalition of a few countries that fought against them, right? Right. So Og king of Bashan and Sihon king of the Ammonites, right, came against them. There were other kingdoms here. There were the Edomites. Then there was the Amorites, and then there's the Arameans. Okay. But the Bashan, Og king of Bashan and Sihon king of the Ammonites came to attack the Israelites, right? Now this is a new generation of fighters, and they come here and they fight against them, ching 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 ching, and they're defeated. The 2 kings are killed, and this whole area is now Israelite, under Israelite control. All this takes place when? Which book? Bible knowledge. Huh?
Wait, the woman judges.
Wah, salah. No,
What?
numbers.
What?
Yeah, so close, right? Okay. So in Numbers, they defeated these people. Okay, and they were all camped up here, right? And Moses got on the Mount Nebo, right? And he gave his final whatever thing, right? He talked to them. That's why it's before Deuteronomy.
And he gave them different.
Then he gave them the second law, and they were all here, you see. And some of them actually said, we would like to stay here and not cross over the Jordan because it's very dangerous there. So we're just going to... Yeah, so there were 3 groups of people who stayed behind in this which they then called Gilead. This whole region is the Gilead. So they will call names of places like Jabesh, Gilead, Ramoth, Gilead, whatever Gilead is basically places that are here. Okay? So this whole area is Gilead, right? Jeremiah's balm of Gilead. Is there no balm of Gilead, right? You know, so that is from here. Okay. Then, so there are 3 tribes: Reuben, Manasseh, and Gad.
Got one correct.
Yeah. These 3 tribes said, you know, we would like to camp here, but we will send fighters across the river, but our families we keep here so it's safe. So then Moses said, okay, you promise, You promise, sure, confirm, only after the work is done, then only you come back. Okay, then they all say, okay, we promise. So Moses died, and then Joshua gets them over here. Okay, so he brings everybody across, and then they settle in the land. So Judah is given the southern part here, Judah, and then Benjamin is about north here, and then Simeon is in the middle here. Okay, right in the middle, because they couldn't fight. They didn't have enough faith or whatever. Judah is the one with the most faith. Right in the middle here is Ephraim.
Ephraim is the second son, right?
Yeah, Ephraim and Manasseh, right? And then Manasseh is a bit here as well. Okay, up north you have.
Before they came in, were they people on land?
Oh yes, of course.
The giants, right?
Yeah, and
But
there were at least 31 cities scattered all across this whole area, and this is hill country, right? This whole area here is hill country.
AI was part of it, right?
Yeah. So you see the geographical land kind of things like that one, right? So this is Jordan River. Valley. Yeah, then this is the Gilead area. So you climb up the stairs, ching, 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 and then go down, and then go up again, ching, 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 ching. All the cities are all here, you know, things like that. Then here is the coastal plains.
Did they find the 12 rocks though?
Don't know. But anyway, okay, so this, you need to understand, this whole area is hill country, okay? And you got all these cities located in all these different hill country areas. Some on one mountain top, there another mountain top. And basically what happens is that the elders of the 12 tribes, they cast lots, and then it's okay, this plot from this area to this area belongs to who? Okay? So, oh, Dan. Okay, so Dan, this is your land. Okay, then this other plot here, okay, belongs to the cast lot. And then, okay, this one belongs to Ephraim, right? So this is your land. So they have to then go in and take their own land. Fight for their own land. So they got like 5 cities there. Now, there's one other important thing you need to realize, that Joshua, when he went in, he helped to establish the basic. Okay, what he did was, he get all these guys, you know, and they came in from the Jordan River. First city that they hit is what? Bible knowledge. Come on.
Jericho.
Yes. Okay, Jericho, right? Jericho's down here, okay? Yeah, Jericho, they crossed the river, then the first city they hit was Jericho. And Jericho is like the entrance, Jericho is like here.
It's so cute.
Jericho is like here, okay? It's right at the foot of the entry into the hill country. So you got to pass through Jericho, right? So they went around Jericho, and then once Jericho fell, they took Ai, and then further on, and they took 31 cities, okay, in total, in the book of Joshua. And those 31 cities with 31 kings all killed, right? Kill all the kings, kill the people, and so on. And all these 31 cities, some from the south, okay, some from the north, okay, there was a Southern Alliance and there's a Northern Alliance, right? Southern Alliance all came together, all the kings all gathered together to fight against Joshua. And then the Northern Alliance also, they all gathered together to fight against Joshua. But both alliances failed. Joshua just completely overwhelmed them now. Killed them and all that kind of stuff, so they died. Right? And so then they took the cities and they began to inhabit those cities. But there were some other cities that were not involved, right, in the alliance. And they're just like, we want to mind our own business, but don't come and disturb us, we got our livelihood. So they're like, should we take, should we not take, all that kind of stuff. So in the end, they live, coexist together with them. God had commanded them to go and wipe out the land. Okay, but anyway, they didn't. So that is this one. Then as time went on, as you know, the judges came along and then they doing all kinds of funny things, worshipping. Then they started to follow the customs of the people around them, like worshipping idols and things. And then finally God sent 7 judges, right? And the last judge is Samuel. Okay? Samuel was the last judge. So Samuel was this guy who went around, these 3 areas, and he went around these 3 areas to do ministry. And he was quite accurate in terms of his predictions, right? He would say, okay, your wife is not pregnant, right? But if you do this, God will answer your prayer, and your wife will be pregnant and things like that, right? Like kind of like a very accurate fortune teller, almost Samuel in that sense. But the people wanted more than that. They looked at all these kings in the cities and they were like, we want a king. Because all these states, right, all these tribes, right, they were not united. They are all brothers, they are all equals, It's like Malaysia lah. Malaysia is a very good example, You got all these kingdoms, You got Kingdom of Kedah, Kingdom of Johor, Kingdom of Terengganu, Kingdom of Pahang. All these are ruled by sultans, kings. And all these sultans are, they think that each other, no one sultan thinks that they, is above the other, right? Even Malacca also don't even have a sultan, used to have a sultan, but now no more sultan, right? So all these other like Sultan Selangor, who's still alive, Sultan of Perak, all these sultans they are vying for ascendancy and how to be as good as possible lah. So that is the kind of situation that they were in. Now because of the British, right, they standardized everything under this Agong system lah, the system Durbar, right, where all the kings will take turns. So then there will be one Agong over all, and that Agong is actually one of the sultan. So that made everybody kind of feel, okay, that's fair lah, right? Take turns lah, right? So, but that's the Malaysian system. But here, it's not like that. Here, you got all these different tribes, and they all like don't have a king. So when Samuel went around to go and do whatever he needed to do, then people said, we want a king. You see, look at other countries, you got one king, everybody all follows, centralized, right? Efficiency. Whereas here, one tribe say they want to come, another tribe say they're not decided, another tribe say they want to do it. Very hard to get together and form a strong alliance and fight against their enemy, right? So they say we want a king, just like all the other nations. So God says, okay, fine, give them a king, right? If they want a king, give them a king. So he gave them Saul, who was the strongest, tallest, most handsome guy, around, whatever, and he messed up. Okay, he started out well, but he messed up. And then the second guy who came along, David, right, who was quite young, but then he had a testing period. He eventually became the best king that Israel has ever known, right? So, but after David came Solomon, who was very wise and very, understanding and all that, and he expanded the kingdom, very far. But then after Solomon, there was this guy. What's his name? After Solomon. Sorry. Rehoboam.
I don't know how to read the name.
Rehoboam.
Rehoboam. And
Yeah.
then there's another Jeroboam.
Yeah, there's Jeroboam, right? So Rehoboam, okay. Rehoboam was the son of Solomon. Okay, he had many sons. So out of all the sons that he had, because he had 700 wives and 300 concubines.
Oh my goodness.
Now, okay, this right before you even begin to think like, wow, that's insane. Actually, it's not insane. You know why? Because like this guy, this famous actor called Peter O'Toole.
STDs.
Yeah, I know, right? But Peter O'Toole is a famous actor. He acted in the Lawrence of Arabia, right? As Lawrence. Okay. So, but he claimed that he slept with 1,000 women. He's like a super horny guy or whatever. But he claimed that he slept with 1,000 women. So, this is modern day, okay? So it's not that crazy for somebody of that time to say things like that, right? Some scholars say it's hyperbole, it's exaggeration, it can be possible. But I read the story of this guy. Or even worse is the Japanese porn star. I don't know what's there, or hero, whatever it is. This guy has slept with 3,000 women. But that's part of his job. he has to do
Oh,
that.
how are
Right?
you proud of it?
I'm not proud of it. Nobody's proud of it.
But
No,
then
these guys are proud of it.
yeah.
Okay, but anyway, so it's a guy thing. I think. So this Rehoboam was one of the many sons. You know, the supposedly best son of all, which was bad enough, right? He made a big blunder, right? What do you do?
You put the statues in the...
Dang.
No, he listened to the advice of his peers.
Yes. He listened to the advice of his peers instead of the advice of his
Fathers.
elders, fathers, advisors, right? You remember that, right? You know, he come after 3 days and then, you know, and so the whole nation split into two, okay? So you have the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. So the southern kingdom was Judah and Benjamin. And these Simeon fellas will have to move up, okay? They were caught in between, so but the Simeon guys had to move. So it was basically the southern kingdom of Benjamin and Judah, and the northern kingdom of everybody else, the 10 tribes. Everybody else, okay? Ephraim, Manasseh, including the guys over here.
Levi didn't have a land, right?
Yeah, Levi didn't have a place of his own. Okay, so can you see?
It's all over the place. Let's zoom in.
So this is now known as Israel. This is known as Judah.
The one that the most problems one is Israel Judah, yeah.
Sorry,
The one that the most problems is Israel Judah, yeah.
Israel is the one most problem, but eventually Judah also followed the same way lah. Okay, now you have the northern country here, which includes Gilead, and then the southern country of Judah, which is a smaller place. Okay, the northern country was led by this guy called Jeroboam. Okay, who was the first king. Okay, and he was not from the Davidic line. He was from the tribe of Ephraim. Okay, then over the couple of years, all the different kings of the northern kingdom, they take turns. Some kill the king, some assassinate, some do different things. So different kings did different things, but most of the kings were all like right? Ahab is one of the northern kings. What other kings are? Yeah, you haven't heard of this one. Pekahia and Pekah, Omri. All these are kings of the northern, and some of them are really Jews, as in like they were from the northern tribes. Any one of them, but you don't know of these guys. You've never heard of it. The most you heard maybe Hezekiah. Wow, Hezekiah. But he's not even from the northern. He's not from the northern kingdom. He's from the southern kingdom. Or like King Josiah. Wow, King Josiah was a great king. He's also not from the northern kingdom. He's from the south. Okay, so you're like, okay, right? So the northern kingdom, but they were rich because there were so many of them, right? And they did trade. These kings, they had what do you call it? Foreign relations, trade relations with powerful kingdoms like Assyria and so on and so forth. So there's archaeological evidence for the existence of these kings. So, wow, we've got 5 more minutes. So, what happened was, this is the entire historical background. Normally I cover this in like 2 weeks. I'm trying to finish it in 1 week, 1 day, no, 1 hour. Okay.
You broke the record.
I don't know whether this is a good thing though. Okay, but because then we miss out a lot of stuff. Okay, but anyway, these guys in the exile, the northern kingdom were taken over by Assyria in 722 BC. Assyria came, destroyed all these guys, northern and even Gilead, and they surrounded Judah and was about to swallow Judah. But that time was the king Hezekiah was under Hezekiah was the king at the time, and Isaiah was also the prophet on duty during that time. Yeah, so Isaiah said, "Don't worry, this guy, King Sennacherib will not enter Jerusalem." Right? So Jerusalem was protected, and the destruction was delayed to 586 BC. Okay, I'm just going to stop here and I'm going to summarize by saying that this whole middle section here, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and the 12 minor prophets, are all during the so-called pre-exilic time, before the exile. And that's part of what you need to study. You need to study the pre-exilic prophets, and you also need to study what is known as the pre-canonical prophets, which are the prophets before this time. That means Moses, Samuel, and Elijah. Moses is recorded in Deuteronomy. Samuel and Elijah. Samuel is recorded in Samuel, and Elijah is recorded in Kings. Okay, so it covers these. So we do get to study a bit of Torah. Okay, we study Deuteronomy, we study Samuel, we study Kings, we study Hosea and Amos. Okay, by right you can do Isaiah and Jeremiah, but very long. These two books are super long. This has 66 chapters, this has 52 chapters. Hosea only has like 6 chapters. Right? No. Is it 6 chapters? No. 14 chapters. Amos has like 6 chapters. Okay? So obviously we do Samuel, okay, and Kings. Anyway, we will be studying 3 pre-canonical prophets and 2 pre-exilic prophets, Hosea and Amos. Okay, if we have time and if you all hand in your homework on time, then I will consider teaching Isaiah and Jeremiah, which is harder but more interesting. I mean, it's also interesting, I mean, you also learn about Isaiah and Jeremiah as well. It's a lot to study. Okay, so that will end our first lesson and basic introduction to the Old Testament and the scope of our study. In our next lesson, which is on Wednesday, lesson 2, we're going to go a bit more in depth into these prophets, right, and their time. We're going to speak more about this one and also a little bit about here. I'm going to talk about how these are arranged and talk more about the exile. Okay? So, yeah, bye-bye.